How's it going, folks? Welcome to FoundFlix. I don't know about y'all, but I am more than ready for the spooky season, and that is the motivation behind today's video, the house's October built. In this found footage setup, a group of friends go in search of the scariest underground haunts. As their trip seems to reach a dead end, strange things start to happen, and it becomes clear the haunt has come to them. Like I said, I am trying to invoke the Halloween spirit, and this one really hits the mark for me. In a lot of ways, it is a typical found footage flick, but it's the concept that I really like. We have a group of pals going around to various real haunted houses looking for the best spook around. And honestly, I'm like, man, that sounds like so much fun. I wish I could do something like that. So for me, just seeing various haunts in Texas is a lot of fun and really does get me into the spirit. It's also interesting as this actually began as a documentary exploring attractions around the country, and they still include portions from this in addition to fictional bits. Clearly, the filmmakers are intrigued by the idea of what scares us and how that has evolved over time, and now has led to what are known as extreme haunts. I feel like this one pays homage to the biggest one in the field that I'm aware of, the absolutely terrifying sounding McCamey Manor in Tennessee. Basically, it's the most intense and terrifying setup imaginable. The actors can do pretty much whatever they want to you, tie you up, waterboard you, whatever. Everything is game. And there is no recourse thanks to having to sign a 40-page release. There's all kinds of tales of messed up victims from the experience that is said to last up to 8 hours and spans multiple locations, but no one has ever completed the entire gauntlet. So why in the hell would you want to do this in the first place? Well, the prize for completion is $20,000, which is obviously not chump change. All you gotta do is survive the hours of torture and madness. Again, it seems like the filmmakers are really playing with this idea. How far are you willing to go to be truly scared, as our group encounters the mysterious blue skeleton group that appears to really push the limits? Or are they in fact crazed killers? That's the question we're left with, especially with how things turn out. So let's take a road trip to Spooky Town in the house's October built, breaking down the story, what the blue skeleton is all about, and explaining the ambiguous ending. A quote lays out that they are not afraid of any kind of spooky stuff, but more afraid of what real human beings are capable of. They then set up just how big haunted attractions really are. Nearly 2,500 different ones launch every year. Some guy, clearly an authority, I mean he's from hauntedhouse.com, shares that 30 million people a year visit these kind of haunts. Woo, that is a lot. Peeling back a bit behind the scenes, they talk with some scare actors who feel that there is no bigger rush than getting a big scare. Yet there is a concerning side, as there are rumors about hiring actual murderers to work in the haunts. You can't speak to that, but when it comes to using real human remains, he admits that he wouldn't be surprised if that happened. There are some tales of alarming incidents, like a 17-year-old who accidentally hanged herself with a noose, or a 28-year-old sex offender who was arrested, and yet another employee who slashed up his whole family. So yeah, you don't always know who exactly is hiding behind the masks in these attractions. Our main found footage was shot by 5 friends during a road trip in 2013, and the rest was allegedly filmed by the Blue Skeleton group, an underground haunt with no fixed location. It looks like things don't turn out so well for our gang, seeing Brandy getting stuffed into the trunk of a car, her hoodie covered in blood. She starts coming to, hearing her captors laughing, and we jump back to 6 days prior to see how we got here. Things are jovial and exciting at first, with a gang of friends reuniting at the Cowboy Palace, and it seems that it's Zach in particular that is leading the charge to find the most extreme haunted house in the world. He shows off a video of a girl tied up and points, "That's where I want to go." They reinforce that idea that the old kind of haunts where people just jump out and say boo does not cut it anymore. They're desperate to find that feeling of being scared again, and everyone toasts to a happy Halloween and party long into the night. Another interview adds a worrying extra consideration to our scare actors that they don't do background checks but are looking into it into the future. Okay, great. So the guy hiding in the wall with a big chainsaw whose job it is to terrify people? No need to get that checked into. Of course. Brandy describes feeling excited despite not knowing what she's getting herself into, and Zach chimes in that she is a jumpy person and hasn't been to a haunted house since she was a kid. They've come a long way since then. Proving just how much of a lightweight she really is, Mikey spooks her and she shrieks to his amusement. Although she's actually hopeful that they can provide her a real scare, not like the ones at theme parks where someone runs up to you while you're waiting in line for a hot dog. Zach promises that it won't be like that. Out in the country, there's no rules rules are regulations. I'm not sure that's exactly comforting, bud. After getting directions from a local, who makes sure they really want to go there, they arrive at their first attraction. On the way in, they get Brandy to stuff herself in a coffin that freaks her out immediately, and she really is an extremely easy target, getting followed by a guy and seriously losing her shit on every single scare. In a trippy room featuring feigned clowns, one keeps harassing her, but it's still pretty standard stuff by the looks of it. Entering an old cabin set, there's a girl wearing a porcelain mask with strands of hair hanging out. She gets up in her business, croaking to come play with me, and inquires if they want to be a pretty doll like her. No thanks. Hearing a chainsaw revving up, they rush outside, having survived their first haunt. They talk to one employee, who agrees that there probably is some shady shit going on in places like this, but does not elaborate further. They climb up on a roof to film an overhead shot, and Mikey yells Happy Halloween to everyone over a megaphone. The employees are not too happy about it, two clown guys seen murmuring to each other. Taking their leave, they encounter a clown waiting for them in the road, everyone feeling a bit weirded out. They honk at him as they drive by, and get back onto the main road. Well, that was weird. Hopefully that was the last of that. They later tuck in for Betty buys and shut off all the lights. Yet it appears that they have a new friend following them. Moments later, there's rattling and a shadow slinks by outside. Mikey grabs the camera and shoots out into the darkness. He turns back to someone wearing a mask, but it's just his buddy, laughing at him for shitting his pants. That idea of how far to go for a scare is broached once more, the guy saying, well, you can't bash him or drag him off, so they do everything they can before reaching that line of actual violence. However, he's heard tale of a place in New Orleans that does some crazy stuff, but admits that he wouldn't go for that. Well, that sounds exactly like what our gang is looking for. Their next destination is a zombie-themed paintball course, which honestly looks like a blast. They debate if the zombies will have guns, wondering have you ever seen a zombie shoot a gun in any movie? They say no, the fools, as there are two different Romero movies that have zombies wielding guns. Some horror experts these chumps are. With some extra time on their hands, they pull off at a campsite to have some pre-game drinks and joke about how they never go camping. A dude with face paint appears, asking if they're enjoying his fire. They wonder if he works at the haunt down the road, and he says yes. Still seems weird to be living out here randomly in the woods, but you know, whatever works for you, pal. The concept of the no-holds-barred backwoods is broached, and he's confused by what they mean by backwoods, leaving them all in awkward silence. Undeterred, they set off to do their paintball, taking out the zombie hordes, and it's all fun and games until they're back at the RV. The same porcelain masked girl appears there to their confusion, as she was from a haunt over 100 miles away. No way it's the same girl, right? Mikey bravely goes out to talk to her, and she says nothing, but curiously follows him back onto the camper. They kindly ask if she needs help or if something happened to her car or what, and she only screams back in response and then just leaves. Oh, that was weird. After that, everyone is ready to get going and can't really blame them there. People are then interviewed after leaving a haunted house, and one guy says while his lady doesn't like getting spooked, he sure does. He's looking for the real stuff, like faces of death, which actually isn't real either, but you know, I get what he means. If it's real, it makes it scarier when going in the haunt, he says. On the road, they're still hung up on the weirdness that's been happening, Brandy feeling like these people are almost like fictional characters. Zach is still on the hunt for that rumored spookiest haunt of them all, having to find clues for a password to the Blue House. Until they find out more, it's off to the Terrorplex in Mansfield, which appears to definitely be quite backwoods as they hoped. They're initially disappointed, deeming it a shithole that looks like it was designed by high schoolers. Once night falls, rather than wait in line, Zach elects to take a whiz out in the woods. He's surprised by a guy appearing there in a bloody rabbit costume. He tries to play things casual, complimenting him on his duds, and the bunny whacks an axe on a tree, and then starts stalking after him. He yells to leave him alone and falls on the ground. He pleads, asking what do they want, and the rabbit is apparently just messing with him, clicking his tongue and dancing around before walking away. Guess you ain't such a big man after all, Zachy boy, huh? Get surprised by a bloody rabbit in the woods and you fall to bits. But the point is that it appears to be happening in the real world, outside of the safety of a haunt, real people scarier. This haunt is a bit more intense than prior, as we see several victims of our ghouls, and it starts to bleed that line between scare actor and what looks like a straight up killer. Even these guys start getting concerned. Brandy can't handle it, but is forced to continue onwards. A guy cackles that he wants a piece of her, and they sneak past a skinny kid who follows after. They then find themselves in an elevator. There's a loud bang, and the walls all shake. shake. The doors open to someone in a baby outfit, which is pretty creepy, and another dude attacks, scowling to "Take it, you sucker." A lady in a cage reaches out, followed by a werewolf head. They then enter a little kid's room, hearing a girl's constant wailing. The woman somehow knows Brandy's name, telling her that she's gonna die. A clown shows up and he too knows it, cackling about her death. She brings up to the others that it's quite odd, but Bobby dismisses it. Well, they probably just told him their name to freak her out. Huh, well, how did they find out her name? How would that work exactly? Whatever you say, Bobby, nothing suspicious here whatsoever. To tack on to the increasingly unsettling feeling, an employee recounts a story of another employee that accidentally hung himself while the house was open. By the time they got to him, he was long dead, just hanging there lifeless without anyone even knowing. Yeah, so it's starting to get under my skin a little bit there. Creepy. Can you imagine that? You're just like, oh, that's a cool prop. And you're like, no, that's an actual dead dude, man. Yeesh. For their next stop, Zach is tight-lipped as usual, but offers the clue that it's something Mikey is a big fan of and it fits the theme of the trip. And already I'm like, spooky strip club, right? Yep. As anticipated, there's zombie strippers and everything, looking like a grand old time for the boys. But Brandy is less than amused. After a proper motorboating for all the dancers, it's time to venture off to Phobia, off another rural Texan highway. They overhear more talk of that elusive location in Louisiana, which piques Zach's interest. The guys know that it's called Blue Skeleton, as they went there last year themselves. All right, we got a real lead here, folks. Meanwhile, in the RV, Mikey is hitting on a scare actor, asking her to do contortions and stuff, which is kind of weird. He apparently sleeps with her because on the way out, a clown, her brother it seems, stops the gang with some beef over this. He demands to have their tapes back, while Mike insists that he wasn't recording anything. Things eventually calm down and the guy walks off, but Mikey is a liar. He did tape the whole thing. I mean, 7 cameras on board, you're gonna put that shit to use, right? Pissed off clown brothers aside, there is a more alarming lingering presence that appears to still be following our group. Once they're out for the night, we see someone filming right outside. They then make their way to each of them while they're all fast asleep, even caressing Brandy's face to no reaction. He then turns the camera to a window, seeing his masked reflection there. They don't even discover this violation until the next morning. Zach discovers the video has been posted on a so-called haunt chat site, and they're trying to figure out how exactly this happened. Bobby is particularly worried, as they're not out on a haunt, they're in the middle of nowhere. Zach demands that he not tell anyone about this for now, but, well, the cat is out of the bag. Mikey opens the fridge and immediately retches, finding a big ol' hunk of meat in there. They all instantly blame Zach, but we know that he couldn't be responsible. He was asleep just like everyone else. Almost teasingly, they then get an email to head to Baton Rouge and ask for Giggles. They're getting closer to that ultimate haunt they are so hung up on. The others aren't so sure about going forward after everything going on, but Zach reminds them that they're the ones that were tired of the Mickey Mouse shit. They pull into what looks like a rundown warehouse, and even normally stalwart Zach apologizes for its appearance. It's where it said to go. It's pretty dead inside, and all the inhabitants appear to be scare actors still wearing their makeup. They approach a dude asking if he knows Giggles. He says that he does and offers them to take a seat. He'll be here any minute, he promises. Thanks, creepy old man. Somebody puts a song on, and a ghoul starts dancing and swaying around. They then come up right up to the table and cackles. I assume you're Giggles? Oh, no, sorry, just some other weird clown guy? Pardon me. They're asked to turn off the camera and come with the guys, and they do follow their instructions. Seeing the cam left behind, 2 other dudes start playing with it and decide to make a movie themselves, which apparently just means being perverted, as they go right into the ladies' room and fling the door open to an aggravated Brandy. They get more aggressive, cornering her, and excuse that it's all just for fun. She flees, and the others are growing worried that this is getting out of hand. Messing with Mikey is one thing, but Brandy is extra bad. You leave our token female alone. Not cool, dudes. After that dead end, they regroup to figure out what to do next, but are interrupted by a loud banging at the door. They lift the blinds, and there's more bangs, Bobby thinking there's someone on the roof. The lights cut out, and they try the engine. When the headlights come back on, there's a shitload of people gathered outside, surrounding them completely. Just as quickly as they appeared, they all vanish. Woo-oo, getting real spooky around here. Another interview subject further cements our main concept, that they're phasing out more traditional stuff. Everyone wants things more hardcore, stopping just short of literally killing them. You gotta keep pushing it further and further. So is that what we're seeing going on with the group? Or are these guys actually a bunch of maniacs? That is the question that we are increasingly wrestling with here. On Halloween itself, morale is at an all-time low. Zach coercing a weak smile out of Brandy and demands that everyone has a good time. I specifically requested it. There's more loud rattling, and Zach goes to take a look. He finds a pumpkin ominously waiting for them, along with a note to "carve me" attached. Bobby brings up again how crazy this all is. They were able to find them in the middle of nowhere again. Pretty impressive operation going on here. They carve it as instructed and discover an invitation inside to meet them on Bourbon Street at 10 p.m. They consider if it's them, and it's like, who the heck else is it gonna be, you dodo birds? Regardless, they feel at this point they have to try. This is what they've been searching for this whole time. They open the front blinds, and there are several blue masks trapped in the wipers, one for each. Mikey complains that this isn't what he wanted, and stresses the difference between an extreme haunt and hillbillies surrounding them in the middle of the night. Well, it's a pretty slippery slope, bud. Zach, on the other hand, thinks it's cool, and defends, well, they didn't actually do anything, that's all fine. Easily convinced as usual, they arrive at the hopping as always Bourbon Street. They're on the lookout for someone with a matching blue skull mask, and do see one guy up on a balcony with one. But when trying to get his attention, he disappears. They quickly get separated in the crowded streets, and Jeff spots the masked guy and follows him down a dark alley. It was all a setup, as he's joined by the doll girl and the bloody rabbit. She starts yelling, and they overtake him, dragging him away. The long-haired clown guy retrieves the camera, and it looks like it's so long, Jeff. The others call him, and it's straight to voicemail, but it's actually changed, telling them that if you want to go to Blue Skeleton, show up at this address at midnight. They're lured to another location well off the beaten path, and Bobby lays it out. They either see this thing all the way through or go home, but they don't want to leave without their pal. So, looks like it's no turning back at this point. Either way, the choice is made for them when a bus pulls up from the other way and stops right in the middle of the road. The door opens and out steps someone donned in all black, giving him the stare down. Zach is surprised to get a text informing him they have 60 seconds to come out or his friends all die. They begin counting down, but Mikey isn't scared, still certain that this is all fake, wrangling up everyone to get out there. They text back, "You will be scared," and frighteningly, as he points out, somehow they can hear them. Zach tentatively steps out and gets another message, "Surprise!" and the window explodes. Brandy screeches, "Why are they doing this?" and a phone starts ringing. "Don't look up," it says. The dudes all storm the RV and everyone is taken captive. We then switch to the Blue Skeleton's own camera POV, seeing everyone tied up with bags over their heads. They're shoveled onto a bus where the other guys mess with them, making loud noises to keep them from talking. They're unloaded separately, leaving Brandy all by her lonesome. They then reach their last destination, and the other captors step off, only Brandy and the camera person on their own. They order her to count to 30 before removing the bag over her head. There will be a video camera next to her and tell her to pick it up and film everything she sees. He undoes her restraints, reminding her they'll be watching. Yeah, I figured as much. She waits and steps out, shuddering and crying. The others are all in their own respective hell zones, one left with only a glow stick to illuminate a pitch black room. Another enters an old-looking living room, moaning that he's over it and demanding to know what he's supposed to do. Bobby is alone in another area with his own camera as Brandy comes to someone on a couch. Zach yells to "Get me out of here," hearing someone in the room with him revving up a chainsaw. Mikey comes across a little girl asking her the way out, but she stays mum. The skull mask guy comes to Brandy, causing her to flip her shit. Zach is screaming, wanting out of here, the chainsaw sounding like it's right in front of his face. Bobby rounds the corner to someone in a lamb mask and confesses the props are pretty scary as the lights go dark. In another room, he comes to Mike on the other side of a pane of glass and seemingly can't hear him. He shouts for him to get out of there now. Still with his pathetic glow stick, the guy rips through the door with his saw, Zach begging him to please stop. He pops up in the hole, telling him he's gonna fuck his world. Okay. What does that entail exactly? Another approaches Bobby in a blue mask. "It's not a haunt," he stammers. "Now it's gotten too real for you, Bobby boy. Like he said, you will be scared." They live up to their promises at the Blue Skeleton at least. Another guy enters asking if he's having fun and hear him getting pummeled by something. The guys load Brandy in their trunk, taking us back to the beginning scene. She starts coming to in a coffin, already nestled deep in a hole, and they close the lid just as she's getting her wits about her. Mikey and all the others are in their own coffins, and they get to work filling in the dirt for Brandy's grave. The others all struggle to get out of their coffins to no avail, and Brandy screams futilely to help, the skull guy just staring back menacingly. We jump to one last interview, the actor saying the best part of the job is they get to not be themselves for a few hours a day, to get out of the tangled mess that is their head and take up their pent-up aggression on someone else. They want to make it so that they can't escape. For example, if they're a zombie, their goal is to eat their brains, while their victim's goal is to make it out if they can. However, if he had his way, it would be their last visit anywhere. This really lays out the dynamic of our crew and the Blue Skeleton, especially with how things pan out in the end. The big question, is this truly just a next level fright experience, or has our gang actually been given death sentences? the end doesn't really answer one way or another, and if we looked at it from just this entry, I would feel differently about it in relation to where things go in the sequel. When I first watched this, my initial takeaway was that I thought they were all ultimately killed by the group, even if things are left ambiguous. I mean, we don't even see Jeff after he was stabbed and dragged off in the alley. Where'd he go? Although they had plenty of chances to kill them along the way, if that was really their goal. So I think the real takeaway of the group, as is heavily established throughout, is that idea of always pushing things right up to that line. But what the blue skeleton does is they leap right over that line. For them, anything is fair game. This does, for our thrill seekers, provide that next level experience, as by the end they're all pretty much blubbering messes after being so confident of their prowess. That is, until they encountered the group. Now, we don't learn too much about the organization, but it definitely seems pretty well crafted and sophisticated, at least in some capacity. From the very first hunt where we met the porcelain girl, Zach and his pals were already on their radar by this point. And really, this whole thing was kind of them pulling the strings even from the beginning, pushing them further and doing more elevated things, all in order to frighten them. They could have easily bugged the RV with their own cameras and would sneak it in and would know where their target was at all times. Easy enough. Again, the idea of taking a hunt out into the real world, outside the perceived fantasy and safety of an attraction. If it feels real, as they say, that's what makes it scary. After all that, it is still worth mentioning that even if the blue crew were just trying to scare the hell out of the gang, they still literally crossed multiple lines and broke several laws in the process. Unlike McCamey Manor, where things are legally on the up and up thanks to that hefty release document, this is definitely not. They just beat the crap out of them and kidnapped them, all kinds of stuff, without their permission. Although, on the other hand, the group does constantly keep searching them out. So really, it is kind of their own faults that it led to them finally encountering what they thought they wanted all along, which turned out to be way more hardcore than they were anticipating. As we had hammered into our heads throughout, people just don't find the classic stuff to be scary anymore, and the blue skeleton has really pushed that limit to its max and beyond. Ultimately, although, due to their actions, I still believe they are kinda definitely psychotic and disturbed, tying back to that whole "I'm not scared of vampires" and stuff quote that started the movie. It's what real humans are capable of that's truly scary, and that's what we've kind of seen here, folks. However, the sequel really makes it clear the blue skeleton are just providing them with the most extreme spook experience around and pushing that envelope as far as it can really truly go. As for where things go next, well, that will have to be saved for another video covering the sequel coming very soon. With that, we've reached the conclusion of this Ending Explained for the Houses October Built. And don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for any movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by leaving a comment or hitting me up on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. What did you guys think of the Houses October Built and its ending? What's your favorite haunted house flick? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time.